The notorious hot take. It seems like they'll never go away in the world of sports. I'm sure we've all seen countless hot takes. Some are actually really good and make total sense. Others seem like people just want to be different. Some hot takes even make you question how delusional this person can be to think of something this brain dead. Well, in today's video, I created 9 of my favorite personal NBA hot takes for you guys. Some of these takes apply to the current NBA season. Others refer to the historical side of basketball. Either way, these opinions won't float everyone's boat, so be prepared. Before this video starts, if you guys disagree with any of these takes, feel free to leave a comment arguing your side of the thought. I'd love to discuss things with you guys. Damian Lillard will request a trade out of Portland. This may seem kinda out there because Damian Lillard, as we've seen, has pledged his loyalty towards Portland. But I think this season will be Dame's breaking point. Damian Lillard is gonna get tired of losing in Portland. He's gonna get tired of achieving nothing in Portland, and eventually he'll budge into requesting a trade out of there. The front office in Portland has done a terrible job of putting talent around Lillard for almost a decade. The roster doesn't seem like it's going in the right direction. There's nothing right now that says the Blazers will win now or anytime soon. I think Dame will have enough and request a trade out of Portland. LeBron was the main reason that the Lakers fell apart last season. I know it may seem kind of crazy to say that a 37-year-old LeBron leading the league in scoring was the problem here. Despite coming off his best scoring season of his career and averaging 8 boards and 6 assists, LeBron's play deserves a majority of the blame for the Lakers' demise. Ever since Anthony Davis got hurt in mid-February, the team went downhill. On February 16th, the Lakers had a record of 27-31. On April 10th, the Lakers finished with a record of 33-49. This means the Lakers went 6-18 ever since this injury. Ever since that injury, it felt like LeBron just gave up on his team. His defense was terrible at this point. Most times on defense, it didn't seem like he was even trying. His attitude and body language was terrible. I mean, it just seemed like he didn't even care. People who just look at the box scores will tell you that it wasn't his fault because of the numbers he's putting up. But actually, if you watch the games and pay attention to the situation, you could see that LeBron was a big issue for the Lakers. Now, I understand that he's not 25 years old anymore. This man is 37 years old now. There's no one even close to him at the same age of 37 years old, now or in any era. But it would be nice if you could actually play some defense and stop complaining like a bitch. Traditional built teams are better than super teams. Teams that homegrow their stars and put valuable role players around those stars tend to do better than the teams that just buy their stars off the free agency market and have no structure. Most of these super teams just throw a bunch of stars or high profile players together and just hope they magically work out and find chemistry. Traditional championship teams are better for many reasons. First off, most of the time the core guys of the team have way more and better chemistry. The stars in these teams tend to have a better chance at staying loyal to their team, aka more chances at more rings. And last, these teams actually have structure and have players that play different roles to help a team win more than super teams. Let's look at some of the most recent championships from the last 22 years and the makeup of their teams. As we can see here, 17 of the last 23 championships were won by traditionally built teams. The super teams that won were the 2008 Celtics, who acquired Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen from trades or free agency. The 2012 and 13 Heat, which was kind of the birth of super teams in the modern game. The 2017 and 18 Warriors, which was probably the most stacked team of all time looking at it now. And the 2020 Lakers, who brought in AD and LeBron recently to form a super team that worked for 1 year. Some other notable super teams that failed horribly were the 2000 Lakers with Kobe, Shaq, Malone, and Peyton. The 2013 Lakers, who had Kobe, Nash, Howard, and Pau Gasol. The 2004 Pacers with Reggie Miller, Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest, and Steven Jackson. And most recently, the Brooklyn Big Three with KD, Kyrie, and Harden. To really sum it up here, the structure and chemistry of a team is more important to winning championships than just sheer firepower. Points, rebounds, and assists aren't good stats to use to compare players of different eras. Because of the change of pace between different eras, we see various inflations and deflations of these numbers. These player-by-player comparisons from different eras that use these stats aren't really accurate. I made a chart of the possessions per game as a league average from every 5 years since 1960, and I additionally added 2022 into it. As we can see, the possessions per game really vary by year. In the early days of basketball, like in the 60s and 70s, they had some of the highest possession possession per game numbers ever seen. Around the late 90s and early 2000s, we saw some of the lowest numbers of this category. 2022 had around a conservative 100 possessions per game. Now, how does this apply to player stats? Well, let's use Wilt Chamberlain as an example. In 1962, the Philadelphia Warriors had an average possession per game of 131.1. In that season, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points per game and 25.7 rebounds per game. Now, if Wilt Chamberlain were to play in 2022 with 98.2 possessions per game, his numbers would come back down to earth and he would average 37.7 points per game and 19.2 boards per game. Okay, let's do another example, but the other way around. LeBron last season averaged 30.3 points per game, 8.2 rebounds a game, and 6.2 assists per game. LeBron played with 100.1 possessions per game last year. If LeBron were to play in 1996, where there was on average 91.8 possessions per game, he would therefore average 27.7 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. Obviously still great numbers, just not as high. Do you see where I'm going with this? Basic stats like points, rebounds, and assists per game that everyone loves to use aren't great when comparing players of different eras because the pace of the game is different, which affects the amount of opportunities a player has to acquire these stats. I don't even think this should even be close to a hot take, but the NBA bubble wasn't rigged at all. It was actually the most fair basketball we've ever seen. The NBA bubble took out all other variables besides basketball. No home court advantages, no off-court distractions, just fair basketball. I think the NBA bubble really showed who was the best team more than any other NBA finals. Everyone had to take an awkward 4-month break from basketball and come back to playing. Everyone was living in similar rooms. Most teams probably had similar practice schedules and court access. No one had any hot streaks to ride on or any cold streaks to ruin it. Besides maybe 100 virtual fans, the bubble was fair and square for every team. People are just too emotional that LeBron won in the bubble. People were saying quote unquote the bubble was rigged just to discredit LeBron. It's kind of sad, honestly. MJ retiring twice was the best thing he could do for his legacy. Let's just be honest here. Let this be a wake-up call for all the MJ meat riders. MJ was not winning 8 championships in a row. Let's start it off with the first retirement from 1994 to 1995. I feel like the Rockets probably would have beaten the Bulls. Hakeem Olajuwon would have been too much for the Bulls, where a strong big man was their main weakness. This would have ruined their argument of MJ being undefeated in the finals. Not only would this have affected his legacy purely as a basketball player, but as an icon for the NBA. There were reports during this time that MJ was dealing with excessive gambling issues. I feel like the NBA kind of encouraged this action just to keep the golden boy of the NBA's reputation clean. Now, let's talk about the second retirement from 1999 to 2001. This retirement, like the first one, would have also negatively affected his legacy. During the final years of the Bulls, especially in the 97 and 98 season, the team was falling apart. There were issues between the coaching and management that were building up to this team's implosion. Not only this, but the players on the teams were aging and the other teams were on the rise. Both MJ and Ron Harper were 34 years old, Pippen was 32, and Rodman was 36. You had teams like the Pacers, Lakers, Jazz, Heat, and Spurs that were all improving. The Nuggets are going to make the NBA Finals. If they can stay healthy, I think this goal is definitely achievable. A core group of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon is just scary. They have other quality role players like KCP, Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and DeAndre Jordan. Jokic is going to have a lot of options to play make too now. We all know Jokic will put up great numbers, but the real question is Murray and Porter Jr. I think if we can get a bubble Jamal Murray and Porter Jr., I think the Nuggets can surprise people in this playoffs. I think the Nuggets can surprise some people this season. Jokic is going to prove that he doesn't just put up empty numbers, and he isn't just a regular season player, but that he does create winning basketball. I think the Nuggets will get a 3 or 4 seed this year. With a healthy team, they'll surprise a lot of people this season. Ben Simmons is going to have a killer comeback season. People are sleeping on Simmons for next season. He's really under the radar because he hasn't played an important NBA game for over a year and a half now. I think he'll average about 12 to 15 points a game, around 8 boards and 8 assists per game, and at least 2 steals a game this season. I think he'll play at least 60 games for Brooklyn this year. He's going to be a crucial piece for Brooklyn's defense. I think he'll work really well with KD and Kyrie by his side. His game really complements those two really well. Simmons brings the elite defense, playmaking, and paint scoring, while Irving and Durant bring the firepower on offense. I think Ben Simmons is going to be an all-star this year. He'll make an all-defensive team and finish top 5 in defensive player Player of the Year voting. I can't wait to see what Ben Simmons can do this year. I can't wait to see him surprise people this year. I know y'all saw the thumbnail. I know what you're thinking. There's no way you could call this overrated. Well, hear me out. To say that Victor Wembanyama is a generational talent is an understatement. He has GOAT potential written all over him. If someone asked you to name a basketball unicorn and you didn't name Victor Wembanyama, I think you would need to get checked into a mental hospital. We've never seen a 7'3" hooper that can dribble, shoot, and pass like an all-star guard, and then block shots like a big. He's like a Kevin Durant, but on steroids. Victor Wembanyama is the definition of a player you create in 2K, and he averages like 70 points a game. Anyways, although Victor Wembanyama is beyond talented, he may be becoming a little bit overrated. Over the last season, Victor Wembanyama played 33 of 76 games this past season for his team. He dealt with various back injuries, shoulder contusions. He has a history of breaking fingers, probably because they're built like pencils, and he's had injuries to his fibula, which have all put him out for considerable amounts of time. Not only these injuries, but hopefully we don't see a similar situation as Chet Holmgren, where he got injured early, probably due to his tall, lanky build. You never know what grown men could do to this young prospect. It's not uncommon to see very tall basketball players suffer from significant injuries. Over the history of the NBA, we've seen 26 players that have been 7'3" or over. Of these 26 players, really only 7 of them had careers to remember. And of those 7 players, only 2 of them didn't suffer significant injuries. This means that 71% of these players had their careers ruined by injuries. Even the 2 lucky guys, in Mark Eaton and Rick Smits, they only had 11 and 12-year careers. Although Victor Wembanyama is possibly the greatest prospect of all time, I think it's inevitable that he'll face some major injuries in his NBA career. GMs need to take more caution to this than they already are. I think if you're a GM, you just need to realize that drafting Victor Wembanyama is a really dicey move. I think you just need to realize that he'll bring these out-of-this-world attributes and also a series of different injuries. That wasn't really as much of a hot take, rather just my opinion about Victor Wembanyama. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like these.